Hello everybody and welcome back to another tier list video here on the channel where I am going to be going through, and now that I have finished watching Buffy, tier ranking each and every single character the show has to offer. That's not true, it's not even nearly half, but it is the most comprehensive tier list I was able to find online. I'm also going to be doing more substantial reviews of the show down the road. This is just kind of a fun way to establish where I sit on some pivotal points for the series, while I'm sure angering many fans. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump on into the first tier ranking of the Buffy show. Joss Whedon's a creep, but Giles sure is not. I think we all know where on this tier list of love, like, indifferent, no opinion, dislike, hate, and electric chair is going to go, and that's in the love. The dude punches a cop and bangs Buffy's mom on a cop car. That's just legendary status right there. In a world with gods, there may be nothing more iconic than where Giles bangs Buffy's mom. Is that fair to say?
Oh god, yeah.
Okay, good. By the way, this will have full spoilers for the series. It's been out for well over a decade, so if you're already clacking away that's a spoiler for you, why are you watching a tier list for Buffy before finishing the show? Moving on. Adam! This was a villain who I think I just generally dislike. Adam was like Buffy's attempt at stepping more into a sci-fi type threat. Kinda, not even really, and he just felt underdeveloped over the top, though I do love the fact that there are multiple points where his CG arm breaks physics by having more mass with what it turns into than where it started. It's kind of like the Hulk problem. Where does the Hulk get all of his mass from? Does he like suck it in from the air around? I don't know, or is Bruce Banner just a really heavy guy? I'm not sure. Amy was a gateway into one of Willow's best arcs, if not her best arc, though at the same time, she is spending most of her appearance on screen as a rat, which is kind of hilarious, so I'm gonna go ahead and say I like that. Great support character who gave us some pretty great moments throughout the show. Andrew! I dislike this guy. He's a fine character who's acted in a way that doesn't necessarily vibe with me entirely, and I don't like the forgiveness he receives so easily, which is something Buffy struggles with in its later seasons with several characters, and Joss Whedon seems to really like to redeem his creepy weirdos. Angel is an actual pedophile who admits to stalking Buffy when she's a minor before even knowing she is the Slayer. He, just as a centuries-old vampire does in Edward Cullen, and starts wanting to hit on a minor. That is an electric chair. The demon version of him is just the worst version of that, so electric chair as well. This is one of the biggest criticisms I have of the show, the continual sexualization of minors around much older men through justification of fantasy means. Ew. The little kid Spike kills who was supposed to be this prophesied thing, but
the anointed one.
The anointed one, thank you. I like that Spike just kills him. That's kind of the whole purpose of his character, so I'll give that a like because it got a laugh out of me and I thought that was funny. Anya's great, despite a very lackluster death that I think the character deserved much more from, and Xander then joking like a few moments after learning about her death, which f*** you, Xander. I love Anya, and I think the sass she delivers to the crew is quite spectacular. I was resistant to welcoming her at first, but she won me over. Definitely gonna put her in love, though below Giles. Everyone is below Giles. Ben, I think his name is. Don't really like him. He's just there and serves a purpose for a much better villain, Glory, inside of him. Okay, that's weird out of context. Glory is a physical character. There's not glory within this weirdo. Works at a hospital, kind of like some things he does here and there, but overall, I'm just fine with him. And now we get to maybe one of my most controversial opinions here on the list. I'm not very well in touch with the Buffers fandom, and generally I need to think about this. I'm buffering about Buffy because I do love Buffy. Don't get me wrong. She is maybe the most deep character the show has to offer for many reasons. That being said, though, in the later seasons, I do not feel like Sarah Michelle Gellar was really giving it her all, and a few of the plot lines around her really did not deliver in a way I would have liked. That being said, this is a character tier list, and I love the character of Buffy, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in love, of course, just below Giles, because Giles gets laid on top of cop cars, and that immediately makes you the top of the list. Caleb! A early appearance in Nathan Fillion's career that I think was pretty effective for what it was supposed to do. The religious zealot zealot with odd, disturbing sexual desires is a trope that does add some substantial fear. I'm going to put him at a really high liking. This is probably the best villain we've talked about yet on the list. Although if you consider Angel a villain, which I do, that can be debated. Clem! I love Clem! He's so cute! That's all I need to say. Clem is just the ultimate, like, having a little disheveled goblin in your show who's so nice guy, and I love Clem. Cordelia! She actually had a surprising amount of depth to Buffy's show. I've heard what's happened to her in Angel, and it's probably part of the reason why I'm never going to watch Angel. I'll put her in like, though, because she did serve as a really good foil at times, and the performance behind her, while it is a bit goofy, is delivered with great sincerity. So mad props to the actress there. Darla! No real opinions here. I like Rita from Dexter, but Darla does not stick in my brain much. Dawn. I think I might make some Buffy fans mad here. Dawn serves basically no purpose. Outside of the season she is established and explored in, she then kind of just floats around, and one of my biggest things for like later on in terms of making the ending of Buffy more cohesive and concise and focused, her character should have been utilized in an entirely different way. And so at the end, I'm left with a general disliking of Dawn, not due to the character or performance. I actually don't mind either of those things, but she's misused so aggressively in the story, I cannot help but feel it drastically affect my opinion of the character. Again, I actually was really hesitant when Dawn was first introduced, but by the end of the season she was most active in, I quite liked her. But from there, Dawn just orbits, and that's about it. There was specifically an episode where it was like kind of teased that she might be the next Slayer, and I was like, that's corny, but at least it's like a direction for her to go, so I'm fine with that oh no, she's not even getting that. Dawn just floats around. And I'm sure there's stuff in expanded comics and novels that have done things for Dawn. I am not referencing any of that. I am purely talking about in the context of the live action show of Buffy, so back off, you little book nerds. Drusilla, the very typical trope of the seductress type vampire, played masterfully by an actress who leaned into the schlock of the role in a very effective way. I could see reasons for not liking Drusilla, but the presence this actress brought every single time she stepped onto the screen was undeniable, and I really, really like her. She's probably my favorite of the liking so far. Evil Giles, I barely remember this guy. He was around for a little bit. I'm sure there are people in the fandom who are gonna bite my head off and say he's the greatest villain ever. I know he was just kind of smarmy. I remember his dialogue with Giles being interesting at times, but I'm pretty much indifferent and have no opinions here. I've just been informed his name was Ethan Rayne, which is one of the coolest names of anyone on the list, and this is a show with a guy named Spike. Faith! Joss Whedonisms really came through strong here, didn't they? She's a character who goes through quite the emotional arc. While it might not be entirely believable at times, the performances behind it is strong enough that you end up really caring for the character. I do want to put Faith up here, probably at the top of like, though saying I love Faith would be a lie. I am just very positive on the actress, the performance, some of the writing, and just the threat the character did provide at times. Glory! One of the villains that, like, logically I was like, this shouldn't have worked as well as it did, but Glory ended up being like a really good villain. She's this flamboyant, over-the-top, ancient force of evil who is so threatening while making sure she's having a great spa day. And I really like that. In fact, I think I'm going to go ahead and put Glory at the bottom of love. I actually was like kind of hiding my dislike for this character when I first came across them because I was like, ugh, I don't know if this is working for me. But by like the end of Glory's appearance, you're like, never has someone who looks so fabulous been so terrifying. I think this is a photo of Hattie, who I definitely have no strong opinions on. She is there around Anya, and I do not remember her much. I think this is Buffy's dad. I don't have an opinion on this guy. I don't think the show had an opinion on this guy, so I'm good. Just remember some episodes with him with magical stuff, and he never served a grander purpose beyond that. Harmony, you're the worst villain that Buffy ever had to offer, and that is saying something. I hate Harmony, and every episode with her was a displeasure to watch. I think the actress behind the role made some interesting choices, and that's what they were. No hate, but not my interpretation or writing of a villain to enjoy. Jenny, she was really cool for Giles, and the actual stakes of having her die in the show made everything feel a little bit darker and a little bit more of a threat for a while. It was one of the examples of Buffy being like, no, there's danger here. Don't think she's at like the top of like, but I'm definitely gonna put her above Cordelia just because, I don't know. Jonathan, I liked him a little bit more than Andrew, but these whole like nerdy trio was just not the best. Although, no, he had some good emotional arcs earlier on. I'm just going to leave him in indifferent. I think he's fine, and there was some more potential that could have been explored, but at the end of the day, not my favorite. Joyce! Again, I don't know how much hate I'm going to be getting from the fans here, but Joyce had her daughter accuse her boyfriend of abuse and then immediately ignored and did not believe her daughter. She continually says things around Dawn that I find to be very disconcerting, and I would say is just one of the worst TV mothers I have ever come across in terms of supporting the needs of her daughter, trying to keep her children safe, and her ability to actually function in dangerous situations. I am probably going to make some people mad with this, but I generally dislike Joyce and am going to put her just below Dawn. Kendra! Unfortunately, the show did not give me enough to have really strong opinions here, so I'm going to have to put her probably at like the top of indifferent no opinion. She's definitely a really interesting premise, and I think the performance behind it was really cool, but Joss Whedon just never gave this character enough of anything for me to really grab onto and be super passionate about. Kennedy! How dare you stand where Tara stood? The head of the Military Institute woman, the whole Military Institute thing felt sloppy to me and poorly conceived. It was not my favorite thing, though this woman's performance was fine. I don't like kind of the concept around it, and so I'm just gonna put it in the middle of dislike. The Master. There's like a weird amount of nostalgia between me and the Master here for some reason. I really like the campy, over-the-top, schlocky nature of the Master. I am going to go ahead and just say I'm going to put him in like the middle of like. There's no depth, there's nothing beyond just some interesting makeup and someone hamming it up to high hell, but that's really enjoyable sometimes. The Mayor. Wow, this is the only person who may be a better villain than Glory. Talk about a creepy, unpredictable, totally believable, but chaos factor. This guy, I could never tell when he was being sincere or manipulative, and I think I'm actually gonna put him just a little bit above Glory and Love. This is an example of when Buffy shined the strongest, and that was with some of the villains that really felt like they were a danger on the screen. Oz! I love Oz. I wish he had returned in later seasons, but I understand that Seth Green went on to do bigger and better things, but every time Oz was on the screen, he was a gift to the show, and I really enjoyed especially the acting behind the character. I didn't know Seth Green had it in him, but this guy really brought some gravitas to a character who went through quite a bit, and the whole development that he assisted Willow with didn't feel entirely existing just to help Willow develop, but it definitely did do that for one of my favorite characters. So I'm going to put him probably just above Anya. Riley! Well, apparently my girlfriend has a huge crush on this guy, so I'm just going to put him in... I'm putting him in hate. Principal Woods. Dear God, was this man charismatic on the screen. Everything about Principal Woods is an attraction. Oh my lord, the acting is really good. His conflict with Spike, well, I don't think it was the smoothest written, maintained a high level of interest, and it was just refreshing to see a character come in who I couldn't immediately place whether or not they were good or evil, and they kept me guessing until the very end. Really well written, really well performed, overall just one of the best late additions to the Buffy show, and I'm probably going to put in the, just below Drusilla. Apparently Kayla had a crush on him too. Principal Snyder, I'm supposed to hate you, and I really like how much I hate you, and that earns you a good solid middle like spot. Spike. Oh, Spike. This is really one of the hardest people to talk about for Buffy, because Spike started as just like a really well-performed character by, personally, my favorite book narrator of all time, James Marsters. But the writing around Spike fluctuated like mad. Well, the actor always knocked it out of the park. The ending messaging with him and his forgiveness arc, I do not buy into, I do not like, and it really ends up tainting someone who I otherwise thought was a shining beacon of enjoyment for the show. I cannot demote him very low, though, because James Marsters just does such a great job, and boy, do the highlights of Spike's character arc just really outweigh those dark beats that I really feel like, I just want to say Joss Whedon put in there. I have no evidence for that, but I just imagine that creepy dude doing that. So I'm going to put him at the top of like, and just know in my heart, in a lot of ways, he's a lot higher than that. Tara! This, I had emotions, so many emotions when Tara was shot. It felt so brutal. It was a little bit just... I can't, I still am upset. Words are hard. Tara is maybe my favorite not first season character added to the show. I am putting Tara just above Oz, and it was a slow crawl for her to get that high, but she absolutely earns that spot. I didn't make coherent statements there.
Noticed, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just love Tara. I love Tara so much the protagonist of my next book is named after her. Warren! Warren is the definition of you're supposed to hate him. He's written extremely well for you to hate him. You end up hating him so much that you can't even admire how well he is written for you to hate him. Also, the performance is pretty goddamn good here as well. I'm really stuck between putting him like love because I love how strong emotions this character made me feel. It was genuinely impressive, but at the same time, that guy. You don't get to be put in love. Warren's awful. And so I'm putting him in hate, but I'm putting him in hate as such a successful I fucking hate you that yes, I love how much I hate you, but I still just hate you. Wesley, the replacement watcher for Giles. This character almost just felt like an inevitability for the show from like the start. Of course, Giles is going to try to attempt to be replaced at one point with some snooty failure from the council, and you know, Giles would be better than him, and Buffy would end up choosing Giles, etc., etc., etc. The problem is he, as a grown man, starts trying to hook up with a teenager, and it goes further than you'd think. So I'm putting him right down there. Willow! Obviously, Willow is going into love. The representation here is so far ahead of its time. Of course, there's some problems with it being a show from the 2000s, but just seeing a very well-rounded gay character whose entire personality isn't them being gay, but honestly one of the most just deep, evolving characters the show had to offer from the beginning makes her actually above Buffy for me. I think Willow is damn well one of my favorite characters in the history of television, and Allison Hannigan's performance is so endearing, so sincere, and she just falls into it so naturally from the very beginning. There are some people who clearly kind of struggled developing their characters at the very start, but Allison Hannigan was just Willow from go. And I don't know how much of that is her just kind of actually being like that, or how much that is just a performance, but the fact that I cannot tell says it works, and it's effective, and that's all that matters. Xander, I don't know where I'm going to end up putting this guy, because I, of course, have whole seasons where I think Xander is absolutely wonderful, and he's a sweet bean, and I genuinely care for him. I also really enjoy his development at times, but he also fails to develop in some crucial ways as a character that I kind of end up begrudging him for, almost, and the writing around him. Especially, like, this is going to seem so specific and so small, but the last scene with a character is very important. It leaves a taste in your mouth, and the fact that right after Anya dies, he's cracking jokes in one of the worst, most baffling writing decisions I have ever seen for a major show like this with a massive fan base, it actually really does knock Xander down for me. And it's also representative of how in some of the later seasons, Xander's writing just felt a bit more inconsistent, than especially people like Giles, Willow, and Buffy. So I still do like Xander, and I'm going to put him just above Faith, but no, he does not earn nearly the level of love as Giles, Willow, and Buffy for me personally. So how did I do? How angry is the Buffy fan base with my list here? I genuinely do not know what the popular and unpopular opinions are. I just watched this show for the first time as an adult, and it was a schlocky, enjoyable time. The way it is aged is like a mixture of fine wine and stinky cheese, and that's maybe the best combination you can have. Let me know in the comments down below, and of course, like and subscribe if you have not already, and hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here. I got books, I got merch, and have a good one, y'all. Peace.